Are the Cowboys bad? What's going on, everybody? So the Cowboys played this Sunday, and were not very great. They took a tough loss of 28-25 to the Ravens, which that looks a lot better than they were. Going to the fourth quarter, it was 28-6. They luckily scored 19 points in the fourth quarter and almost had a chance if they could get those 2-point conversions down, but they did not get those down at all. Had multiple attempts and did not get a single one. Would have won the game if they got that, and if they got a stop. They had 0 run defense, allowing the Ravens to get 274 rushing yards in that entire game, which you're not going to win if you do that. Over these past 3 weeks, yeah, they had a strong week 1 against the Browns, who had a very bad Deshaun Watson. They won in week 2, but they had 125 rushing yards, not much utilization of Deshaun Watson. But the Cowboys, on the other hand, lose week 2 to the Saints very poorly at home. Lose week 3 to the Ravens very poorly at home. This was a team who, last year, during the regular season, was undefeated at home and only allowed like 40 minutes of losing time at home the entire year in the regular season. That just makes me ask one question. Are the Cowboys bad? The upcoming games for the Cowboys are right now the Giants next week, which, at least as of today, which is Monday, and they play them on Thursday, have a pretty extensive injury report of CeeDee Lamb, Trayvon Diggs, DeMarcus Lawrence, Mozzie Smith, all players who, historically have been very good. They have not been good lately, especially CeeDee Lamb, who, in the game against the Ravens, every time the ball wouldn't be thrown at him, he was throwing it on the sideline. CeeDee Lamb also had the ball and fumbled it on pretty much the end zone line and gave the Ravens the ball when it would have been a very close game going to halftime if he scored that. The next games the Cowboys have are the Steelers. I don't think they'll be able to win that. I think that's going to be a must-win game, especially if they lose to the Giants. They will not be good. I don't see them beating the Steelers as how they've been playing lately. I do not see a win versus the Steelers. Then they play the Lions. Don't see a win. 49ers, don't see a win. The Falcons have looked really good lately. I do not see this being another win. It might be able to scrape out with a win, but it's highly unlikely in my opinion. Then they play the Eagles at home, which I guess we're not good at home anymore, even though they were very good at home last year. I don't see that being a win with the current rate of play. They then play the Texans, and then I don't see that being a win, especially with how the Texans are playing, unless they drop off in skill level, or we go up in skill level. That will not be a win. Then the Commanders, which might be a win. It should be a win, respectively, but, I'm looking at this all negatively here because of how bad the Cowboys have looked. Then playing the Giants at home should be a win. Bengals at home, probably going to be a loss. Panthers away, I would hate to say this, but it looks like Bryce Young might have been the problem. Because, the Panthers, we almost have no real good reading on them. I would hope that to be a win, but since we're playing them at the Panthers and they just won 36-22 against the Raiders, who beat the Ravens, we really don't know. We're going to have to look at that and how that develops throughout the season, but with Andy Dalton, they look a lot better. Then the Buccaneers, that's not going to be a win. Eagles away, definitely not going to be a win. And then the Commanders at home, which should be a win. That's maybe 5 wins the entire season. I don't really see how the Cowboys are going to be able to manage to succeed at all. They really need to turn everything around. The defense is horrendous for the Cowboys. That's what the main issue they need to turn around on. And then the only players that are regularly good for the Cowboys are Ferguson, Aubrey, and I guess I'll count Anger. They're the only players that are regularly good. Dak, he's fine. He should have played better throughout the first half. But also the defense isn't doing anything. He was saying that he has to put up 30 points against a team like that, but also when the defense plays how they did, it doesn't really matter. Because the defense is just going to go back on the field and suck. They proved that. The only reason you got 19 points in the fourth quarter is because the Ravens suck in the fourth quarter usually. They play way too conservatively in the fourth quarter, allowing people to do stuff. They've had a lot of fourth quarter risky comebacks and fourth quarter comebacks happen to them because they are a conservative team in the fourth quarter. And so they allow stuff like that to happen. If they didn't do that, it would have been an even worse score. It would have been a way worse final score. Positive notes of that game, like I said, Brandon Nobby, 65-yard field goal. I think he'll break the record this season. I really, really do, considering he tied it once in the preseason, but then preseason so doesn't count. Then he tied it again in the regular season, but got called back because of a penalty because Mike McCarthy does not know how to manage the clock, and that's been proven time and time again. That is also an issue. It's coaching. Mike McCarthy, Mike Zimmer, they both are not very good right now. The way the Cowboys have been playing, they do not look like they can win. Dak Prescott, he's fine. People want to put blame on him on this game, that game. I saw a stat earlier, won't be perfectly right on this, 35% of his throws are into tight coverage. I don't know what you expect him to do with that. Whenever receivers aren't getting open, an offensive line, the offensive line this game was absolutely horrendous. You know, only 3 sacks were allowed, but that's partially because Dak is good at evading those and good at not allowing that to happen. I mean, he had to step back, and then within a second, he was being pressured because the offensive line could not stop a single thing. The Cowboys may actually be a bad team this year because they do not know how to function on the football field on either side. There's been statements coming out on how they're not doing good in practice. That's not good, and you need to start benching people if they're not doing good in practice. CeeDee Lamb, once he got benched, the Cowboys started doing better. Because, towards the end of that game, CeeDee Lamb, the wide receiver they just paid, got benched because he was crying every time he didn't get the ball. Yeah, I don't know that's not how a football player should be playing when you're being paid $34 million a year. That's not acceptable. Just because you don't get the ball doesn't mean you get to do that. There's also multiple times where he was doing it, and he acted as if he was open when he wasn't. There was coverage on him, and he was complaining. He was having arguments with different people on the sideline. You can't do that. The Cowboys need to have a total turnaround. Their running game is horrendous. Elliott, he played good in week 1. I liked that, but he needed to keep that up. He didn't keep that up at all. He got a good week 1, and I said, if he keeps this up, does this every week, I'll be happy. It would have been fine. He hasn't done that at all. He's done basically nothing. And everyone else, Deuce Vaughn, not really a running back, and you can't really play him. He's a small person. You're running him up the middle. That doesn't work. That doesn't work at all. Don't know why they're trying to do that with him. And Jerry Jones saying, oh, we didn't have enough money for Derrick Henry. You did. You did have enough money for him. He lies. Jerry Jones is a big problem with this team. Jerry Jones lies to the media and says, oh, we're going to go all in. Oh, we spent so much money. He said they spent the most money. They didn't. He said that they're a really good team and he trusts what he sees in these players when you can see on the field that they're not working together properly. Mike McCarthy isn't that good. He's consistent, and we get 10 wins a season every year, but that's not good enough. It's looking like the Cowboys might need to do a rebuild if they keep this up this year. If they don't win to the Giants and the Steelers, I don't know what the Cowboys are going to do to be able to function as even a playoff team. I don't think, with how the Cowboys have shown anything, that they will be a playoff team. Because many people thought that the Cowboys might be 1-2 through the first 3 weeks. And they are 1-2. But nobody thought they were going to be 1-2 looking like how they did. Terrible to the Saints, terrible to the Ravens. And, yeah, they beat a terrible Deshaun Watson. But that's it. The Cowboys are bad. And they need to change stuff now.